Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're ready. Google Slides is bad. Stop using Google Slides.
But we got there eventually.
We got there.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to try and pronounce your name because I'm going to be English and butcher it. So can you tell us how to say your name?
I will tell you my name, which is Przemyslaw, and the shorter version is Przemek, which is slightly easier to pronounce.
Yes.
However, everyone looks at my card and sees the longer version, and it's even more confusing this way, so I don't know what to do. Right.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was like, I know how to say his name, and then I looked at your name badge and went, no, I don't know how to say your name.
So say Przemek, and it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
And we go.
Aha, it's back.
Yeah, great.
Okay. You're going to talk. So you're from Software Mansion.
Exactly.
Who are a sponsor. So thank you very much for sponsoring. Just a quick note: if you don't know the call for papers process, sponsors do not get a speaking slot. They have to put into the same process that everyone else does. It just so happens that we've got very good sponsors who also speak. So thank you very much for sponsoring. Quickly before I forget, you're running an event in October?
Yeah.
Called RTC On.
September, I think. Yeah, it's September.
September.
I've got it at the end of the presentation.
September.
So, yeah.
And I've got some cards as well. So it's a very good media conference that isn't just about real-time media. It's about lots of other things. They had their first one last year, and it was excellent. So if you want to go to Poland in September, it was lovely last year, then you should absolutely go to RTC On. And I'm sure you'll say more about this at the end of your talk.
Yeah, precisely.
So over to you, building FishJam Media Server.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe first I will introduce myself. My name is Przemyslaw. Let's go with full name this time. I have been working with multimedia for about 3 years now, so I'm quite new to this stuff. Over about 2 years at Software Mansion, and for around a year and a half I have been working on the FishJam Media Server. So let's maybe get one thing out of the way, because in the title of my presentation it's called Jellyfish. However, we did a little rebranding in the meantime, so let's stick with the FishJam name from now on. Okay, so before I answer the question of what FishJam is, let me first tell you a little bit about the whys. So the history of the project starts with Membrane Framework, which is a multimedia processing framework that we have been developing at Software Mansion for quite some time right now. It is written in Elixir. Then we created an SFU library on top of it, which is called Membrane RTC Engine. And later on, so around last year, came FishJam, which is another layer of abstraction above the RTC engine. So a little bit about the Membrane Framework. It is an advanced multimedia processing library written in Elixir, and you can do practically most of the multimedia stuff in it. So, well, why Elixir? So, Elixir is a functional language built on top of the Erlang language, which has a cool virtual machine. And it has a built-in actor model, so there are a lot of really tiny, lightweight processes which can exchange messages. And this fits quite nicely with Membrane, which is designed around the idea of multimedia pipelines. So if you have any kind of multimedia problem, it can usually be solved by creating a pipeline. That's what you usually do with FFmpeg. So you just divide this problem into some smaller tasks, and in Membrane they are done by elements. And we have 3 types of elements in Membrane, which are sources, filters, and sinks. The sources are responsible for generating some kind of media buffers, either from, for example, getting them over from the network, or generating some sample audio or video, or for example loading it from file. Then we've got filters, which are like kind of the most important elements, which are responsible for any kind of processing. So for example, decoding, any kind of transformation on the media buffers, which then they send over. And at the end of each pipeline, we've got sinks, which, for example, can send the media over somewhere over the network or save it to file. Okay, so let's take a look at this sample pipeline created in Membrane. It takes 2 video over UDP from the network, then decodes it, mixes it together or composes it in some way, and then we can send this video somewhere else, for example, broadcast it or save it to a file. Okay, so a little bit about the Membrane RTC engine. So essentially it's an SFU built on top of Membrane. It's written in Elixir. Its main focus is on WebRTC. However, it also allows for customization and integration with other multimedia protocols. So what you can do with RTC engine is, for example, create some video conferencing application. This is the demo that we've got in our repository. So very simple video room, right? However, although it's quite simple, it already involves quite some code. You don't need to read all that. I just want to prove to you that it's a lot of code and a lot of boilerplate as well. If you were to create something more advanced in RTC engine, then it would be even more codes. And so, first of all, multimedia is already quite complicated. And secondly, it's written in Elixir. So unless you are coming from the Elixir ecosystem, creating something in Membrane will require you to invest a lot of time to learn the Membrane framework and Elixir as well. So yeah, some of the drawbacks. As I mentioned, the complicated stuff, boilerplate. So any kind of video room you would like to create, you would have to just copy code over and over, and just doesn't make sense. And the resolution that we decided to implement is the FishGem, which is essentially an still SFU, which is open source, general purpose. It uses Phoenix framework, which is like the go-to web framework in Elixir. And it provides a very friendly API, so both HTTP and WebSocket, which abstracts all the multimedia processing. So what you can do now is have your own instance of the FishGem server. Do not touch any of the Elixir code and just run some simple requests to the server and have your multimedia app up and running. So some of the main concepts in FishGem. We've got 3 of it actually, which is rooms, peers, and components. So the rooms are just the containers for any kind of media streaming that goes on. All rooms are completely separate from each other. Within the room, you can have either peers or components, or both at the same time. Currently, there is one type of peer in FishGem, which is the WebRTC peer. It's capable of publishing or subscribing to some WebRTC tracks. Then we've got components, which is like a server-side entity, which can also publish, maybe subscribe to some tracks. So take a closer look at how the WebRTC peer works. So imagine that we have some basic setup with the front end, some back end, and the FishGem server running either on your machine or in the cloud, for example. So if you have a room that you want to join as a client, you create a request to the backend, which is then forwarded to the FishGem. And if it is successful, in return, we get a peer token, which we then return to the front end. So this all is completed using the HTTP requests. And with this peer token, we can open a signaling channel to the FishGem server. This is now a WebSocket. And simultaneously, we open a data channel, which is used to send tracks to the FishJam and then propagate them to other participants, and also to receive some tracks from the FishJam instance. Okay, so what are the use cases? First one that I'm going to show as an example, so integration with SIP. So we have a SIP component in FishJam, which is capable of, capable of connecting to some kind of SIP trunk provider. And this way, it allows us to call someone over the phone, kind of the opposite of what was just shown in the previous presentation. And yeah, someone who is being called on the phone publishes some audio, and it goes also the other way around to this like remote participant. Another use case is adding an HLS, which subscribes to the audio and video tracks from the participants in the meeting, and then create an HLS playlist, which you can then send over to people who are, for example, want to watch a broadcast of the meeting. Yeah, the composition within the HLS component can be accomplished, so is actually being accomplished using the live compositor, which Wojtek is going to be talking about in a moment. So let me show you a quick demo. This is pretty much all the code you need to create a room on the FishJam instance and add a participant. And in the demo, I will show, so actually it's just a recording of me doing it. I want it to be safe. I just need to find my pointer. There it is. So in this demo, I will show you how to add an HLS component to the meeting. So yeah, this is all Python, by the way. So we just import the room API and options for the HLS component, and yeah, create an instance of the room API, which we can then use to perform any kind of modifications, so room management on the FishJam. We just need to provide the address and the API token for the backend. And there is already a room on the FishJam instance, and there are 2 participants in the meeting, which are publishing their own tracks. Yeah, so as you can see, there are 2 participants. And what I'm doing right now is adding an HLS component. And in a moment, the HLS playlist is being created, and we can play it using FFmpeg. Right. Yeah, as you can see, there's me waving to you. Right. So yeah, comparing to RTC engine, it's way easier to just use, well, FishJam, and in a couple lines of code you can basically have the same functionality. We also shipped FishJam with a bunch of SDKs. You've seen the Python SDK with, we have obviously Elixir SDK for the server side, and a bunch of front-end and our client SDKs. And well, in the future, we definitely want to integrate with Elixir, Elixir WebRTC. So this is a project that we are also doing at Software Mention. So how many of you have been at CommCon UK, if any of you? Oh, one of you, and done. Okay, great. So in this case, I recommend you see Michal's talk on Elixir WebRTC. So this is a project which is essentially kind of writing Python, but with Elixir. Currently, we have working WebRTC implementation, but it's based on membrane, and it's a bit messy, and well, it's got some issues, let's say. So we hope to improve the experience for the developers and users as well. Also, we want to further integrate with FishJam Cloud. So FishJam Cloud, as far as I know, is about to be public, which is like a SaaS for fishdom. And some other related projects, well, I've mentioned them all, so yeah. And yeah, Dan already mentioned RTC On, so here's a little bit of promotion for it. We've got some discount codes if you want to reach out to either me or Wojtek to get the discount. And yeah, thank you all for listening. I see that we've got still some time, so I'm open for any kind of questions. If there are any.
Thank you.